rover traverses the barren landscape, carrying out a 2-week NASA-funded mission to collect soil samples from below the surface of the parched desert floor. This region of Chile is the driest place on the planet. Some parts have not experienced rainfall for centuries, making it one of the few locations on Earth that mimics conditions on Mars.
Because the Atacama Desert is so similar to the landscape seen on Mars, it's a very useful research tool for astrobiologists, those interested in studying how life exists in such difficult environments and how it relates to the Mars landscape.
On February 28, 2019, the results of the mission are finally published. While surveying this seemingly lifeless terrain, the rover discovered evidence of microbial life thriving just below the surface.
Microbial life in the Atacama is very unique, and life has existed where it really shouldn't be.
Anybody who's been to the Atacama Desert of Chile knows that it's pretty unusual. There's some very old life forms there you don't find so easily in other parts of the world.
Scientists believe that future subsoil sampling on Mars could reveal similar and perhaps even identical microbes. Is it possible that there is life in the Atacama Desert that matches life on a planet 140 million miles from Earth? As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the desert soil contains evidence of a more profound extraterrestrial connection.
We have figures that have been carved into the desert, similar to what we see in Nazca in Peru. And they're huge, giant figures to be seen from the sky.
The Nazca lines in Peru lie just 500 miles north of the Atacama Desert. They are the most famous geoglyphs on Earth, with over 1,100 glyphs spread across 155 square miles. But few people are aware that Chile's Atacama Desert is home to nearly 5 times as many geoglyphs as Nazca, with more than 5,000 covering an area of 90,000 square miles.
The Atacama Desert has one of the most, if not the most harsh environments on the planet. So for civilizations years ago, these glyphs that were engraved into the ground, you know that was not an easy task.
There is no way that anyone would go through this effort unless something very compelling and something very real happened to our ancestors. And so I think it's time that we pay closer attention to what our ancestors really tried to describe. Of the thousands of geoglyphs in Chile, one towers above the rest. The Atacama Giant measures 390 feet, 30 feet longer than a football field. It sits on an ancient hillside known as Cerro Unitas.
When you walk by this, you cannot really see the Chile. This has been designed, constructed, to be seen from above.
And like at Nazca, seems to be a signal to the sky gods and those who are flying above the desert. So who are they signaling? It would seem to be extraterrestrials.
The Atacama Giant has these lines coming out the top of its head. We have to ask the question, are these the beings that the geoglyph makers were trying to communicate with? Could the figures depicted in the Atacama and at Nazca represent extraterrestrial visitors, as ancient astronaut theorists contend? And if so, could both the Nazca lines and the Atacama glyphs serve a larger, more interconnected purpose, having been made long before any national borders existed? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest they could mark an ancient flight path.
So when you look at all of these glyphs in Peru and Chile and the vast desert spaces and all of the UFO activity there, is it possible that Chile is really this UFO avenue? Is it possible that Chile is this flight path an alien alley?
It's interesting when you look at the Nazca lines and the Atacama geoglyphs together. These are symbols that are best observed from the sky, and they explode in numbers as you move south to the Atacama. Could this suggest that these symbols were some sort of aerial guide, guiding ancient aliens on their way into Chile? And if so, this is exactly how the runway lights work on modern airports.
I think what we are seeing today is what was seen in the past. Because Chile is honestly like a kind of arrival point.
For ancient astronaut theorists, what makes the Atacama geoglyphs even more compelling is the fact that Chile also boasts the highest number of reported UFO sightings in the world.
There is a huge wave, a large quantity of UFO sightings. Quite simply, there is not one family in Chile whose member has not had a UFO experience.
For some reason, Chile has one of the highest rates of UFO sightings in the world. Nobody really understands why, but it seems to be in a region that there's a cluster of UFO sightings.
Chile is such a vast country. It encompasses a wide range of different climates. There are jungles, there are deserts, there are forests. There's huge biodiversity too, and diversity in human populations. There are modern first world cities and indigenous peoples. If they're being visited, everything that you would want to see on planet Earth is there in one nation.
Could there be a link between Chile's high number of UFO reports and the ancient geoglyphs found in the Atacama Desert? Incredibly, the Chilean government itself has suggested a connection between the country's ancient and modern mysteries. San Clemente, Chile, 2008. Chile's National Tourism Board establishes a designated UFO trail. A 19-mile route through one of the most infamous UFO hotspots in the country, and it leads to an enigmatic site known as El Enladriado. This megalithic platform was constructed from 233 volcanic blocks, each weighing upwards of 10 tons.
Now, the Enladrillado is a plateau about 800 meters in diameter. It is not a place of easy access. You have to go on horseback for a couple of days in order to get there. There is the belief that it was related to UFO landing.
Also on the ground are gigantic stone plates, really gigantic, and it might very well be that El Enladrillado was something like a spaceport of the extraterrestrials.
Is there both ancient and modern evidence that Chile has been visited by extraterrestrials for thousands of years? And if so, why? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining an indigenous tribe that once existed in the southernmost reaches of the country and their mysterious rituals. Chile, 1919. German missionary turned anthropologist Martin Gusinde arrives in Chile's southernmost outpost, just 200 miles north of Antarctica. He is met by native islanders known as the Selknam. But by the time of Gusinde's arrival, the once thriving tribe had been almost completely wiped out.
The southern people, or Ona, were pre-Columbian people which live in very extreme southern Chile and Argentina, in the Patagonia. And when English came to this country, they committed genocide. And today, the Selknam are extinct.
Something else that happens to them is that many of them were taken back to Europe to be displayed in what
in complete annihilation. Gusinde took a remarkable series of photos of these people. In 2015, his work was finally published in The Lost Tribes of Tierra del Fuego, documenting the Selknam's unique ceremonies and rituals.
The Selknam were a marvelous culture. They had various rituals, and a pantheon of gods would make them perform a series of ceremonies where they would dress up representing these gods from the sky.
The creator gods of the Selknam actually descended from the sky and gave knowledge to the local population. These pictures were taken in black and white, but in real life, the entire body is covered in bright red and white, and it is signifying the fire of heaven